Hello, welcome to Compton's Corner. I'm William Compton, a public school teacher, lifelong Kentuckian, and I'm a Democratic candidate for Congress here in Kentucky's 2nd Congressional District. I started this podcast because folks in our communities deserve more than political noise. You deserve honesty, transparency, and a chance to hear directly from the people fighting for you. Each week, we break down the issues that shape our daily lives, from the rising cost of living to the challenges facing our public schools, rural hospitals, infrastructure, and local economies. We'll talk with community leaders, experts, and everyday Kentuckians about what's working, what's not, and how we can build a district that puts people first. And I'm not doing this alone. I want to welcome my co host and a good friend of mine, someone who cares deeply about the future of Kentucky, and I'll let him introduce himself, share his story, and tell you why he's joining me on this journey.
Thank you. Hey, this is your buddy, Spencer Keck from the Hillbilly Think Tank over here in Elizabethtown, Kentucky. And just like, William was saying there, I love Kentucky, very concerned about Kentucky's future. And I want to see it be a place where everyone can live and thrive regardless of who you are. You don't have to be a billionaire. And we'd love to see people that are not billionaires thriving and living and doing well here, because billionaires didn't get here without us raising them up. So my big deal, both William and I are teachers, and I started off in the military, did over 20 years in it, came back to Kentucky after working in the federal government post retirement from the military, and I decided that I wanted to give back to my community again, just like I'd been doing while I was in the military. And I wanted to be able to serve the less fortunate. I knew that the reason I did so well in the military was because of education. And I knew that there are kids in Kentucky that are going to fall through the cracks unless they have people that actually care about education like William and I do. And so I'm also running for Magistrate District 3 here in Hardin County, Kentucky for that same purpose.
Awesome and well said. So, together, we're creating a space for learning, questioning, and pushing for better, one conversation at a time. So, let's get started with today's conversation. And we'll start off with affordability here in Kentucky, and then more specifically, Kentucky's 2nd Congressional District. So, Spencer, do you want to start us off with that?
Yes, back to this being a place that's not just for millionaires, billionaires. We need to have a strong middle class that actually isn't always on the brink of going from middle class to the poverty class. We need to make our place affordable. How do we do that? What are some ways we can come up with that would actually help promote affordability while also encouraging more businesses to move in here and provide economic employment opportunities for our constituents?
Yeah, so let me ask you this. When you mean affordability, what are you talking about? Food affordability, housing affordability? Which one would you want to hit on first?
Well, let's go with housing affordability, because you
All
need to
right.
have a place over your head that's secure in order to do your own food cooking, right?
Exactly, yeah. And on that note, I'm actually going to share with you all. This is a document from the Congressional District Housing Profile here in Kentucky. And this was last updated back in 2020 or March of 2025, so earlier this year. And if you can see, and I'm trying to get this to pop up, there we go. Uh, Renter information and renter statistics for major areas in the 2nd Congressional District. And I was showing this with Spencer earlier. The big things I want people to look at is the hours at minimum wage. Kentucky has the $7.25 minimum wage still that it takes for someone to afford a two-bedroom, whether it be apartment or house. And I want people to look at this district has part of Louisville in it. 138 hours you would have to work in order just to afford a two-bedroom house.
Now that's not at 7.25 an hour also, right? That's at,
No, that's at minimum wage because
yeah.
hours at minimum wage.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then at minimum wage in my area, 117 hours. Uh,
Wow. Wow.
Yes.
So if our average work week is 40, which it is, then 40 times 4, 160 hours you work per month.
Yeah.
What are you gonna have
It,
any money left over for?
it's almost 3 weeks worth of pay at minimum wage
And you
if you
still
work
got
40 hour
to
weeks.
40, yeah, and, there's a lot of folks when they're working 7.25 an hour, they're working for jobs that don't want to give them that full 40. So, like Starbucks, that's why they've been having protests and trying to unionize because Starbucks went from being great place to work, 90s and early 2000s to now they were bought out 60% just 2 weeks ago. Now 60% of Starbucks is owned by a Chinese group. So we know they're not going to care about our labor. But Starbucks, they try to work people only 30 hours a week. That way they don't have to give them benefits that they need, that they would receive if they had the 40-hour a week to work, you know. So,
Correct.
you think about other jobs like that, because we're very heavy in our US economy and even especially our Kentucky economy on the service industry being what we rely on for our, average folks to survive. So,
Mhm.
folks that are waitresses, their minimum wage isn't even 7.25 an hour, right? We've
Yeah,
talked about this
exactly.
before. It's what, 2.75 an hour plus tips if you get tips. So imagine how much they're hurting, right? If they're working that type of job and not getting a full 40.
Yeah.
Um, man,
Now I do want to make the caveat here. I just did the math here for Bowling Green. If you look in this column, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but this average renter wage, if you look in that column in Bowling Green, it's $16.26. So if you're looking at how much for a two-bedroom with the average renter wage, if you are making that 16.26, that's still 52 hours, a little over 52 hours that you would have to work in order to afford your home, your place to live. And again, like you mentioned, there are th- some people who make less than that. There are some people who are only making minimum wage, and our our workers in our restaurants are making less than that.
yeah,
And if I remember correctly, and you're the history teacher, the idea of minimum wage was to make sure that anyone who works that can have a basic standard of living
absolutely. Yeah,
and not living in poverty.
yeah. That's supposed to keep you, above that poverty line. Now we know that there's quite a few corporations like Walmart and others. They rely on their employees getting food stamps and more than likely even getting Medicaid since they're being paid such a low salary. And that
Yeah.
is so it ends up we call those people on food stamps welfare recipients. Well, really, the welfare recipients are the corporations that are requiring that, that
Yeah.
are not paying their people enough to live higher than on welfare,
Yeah.
even though they're working.
Yeah. And so I also want to say with the housing affordability, I mean, that a lot of people paid attention to New York this last election season with Mamdani. And of course, you had Cuomo and Curtis Sliwa, which on an unrelated note, I thought Curtis Sliwa was just hilarious when he would speak. I wouldn't want him as governor, but he was hilarious in some of his comebacks. But one of Mamdani's biggest things that he was pushing for was affordable housing in New York. And that's not just a New York issue. That's an issue that we're seeing everywhere, including here.
Yeah,
Um,
it's an issue here in Elizabethtown also. We don't have enough houses being made in order to fulfill, the needs of our community. And we've gone from being a place that had a very good low unemployment rate to, of this last year, our unemployment rate has gone from lower than 5% to, according to statistics I was just looking at before we started, about 15.7. You know, and that's quite a few reasons, but some of that has got to be the fact that our whole county, thrives upon the fact that we have Fort Knox over in
yeah,
Radcliffe, and well, that over by Radcliffe, and Fort Knox has so many folks that are working hard to keep our nation safe and secure, and they're active duty military plus government employees that are also working on the base to keep the whole nation safe. But
yeah,
when those government employees were let go by Doge, that hit a huge chunk of our economy. Folks that rely on them coming out and shopping and going to restaurants out here, now they don't have those big bucks coming out anymore. So another thing is, when we didn't pay the military, that
yeah.
also hurt our retail industry. We depend on retail here for a lot of our economy. I'm not sure how if it's the same in Bowling Green.
Well, in Bowling Green, surprisingly, it's been a little different here. We've had actually our employment rate has slightly went down, unemployment rate, simply because we have so many factories and so many new businesses moving in here because of our amazing governor and what
Yeah,
they've been pushing.
and
and, and
we've had that, because of Blue Oval SK, but that's just not keeping up with the loss from our
yes,
other major employee, there at Fort Knox.
yeah,
So
yeah, and we don't have, like you said, we don't have something like Fort Knox to, I guess, work with as far as job employment rates. Um, but we, especially with housing affordability, I mean, with all of these jobs going up, we're having people moving here from various areas in Tennessee just because of the job market up here.
yeah, and I'm hoping that these statistics that I was looking at might be skewed, because we know that the current president has told the Department of Labor and Statistics to quit printing numbers, or when they didn't agree with when they didn't make him look good. So
Yeah,
maybe these are skewed. Hopefully,
yeah. But I do know with housing, though, that is, no, we are seeing our housing prices rise
yeah,
tremendously, and it's really hard to find even apartments here in Bowling Green
yeah, and it's the same
now.
thing here in Elizabethtown. Yeah,
And I mean, we're expected here in Bowling Green to our population to at least double in size within the next decade with all the
what
growth coming.
that's I'd say we were projecting the same thing, and I believe we still are for Blue Oval SK. But I know that the fact that when January came around and the administration decided they were not going to renew the electric vehicle, you know, um, tax write-offs,
Yeah,
then that really, um, made, well, Ford took a hit, as did all the vehicle manufacturers that were really counting on making clean energy vehicles.
yeah.
So
And so, since we're on housing, excuse me, I had to cough for a second. Since we're on the idea of housing, and you're running for magistrate in Hardin County, I want to tell you something sneaky regarding our housing in Warren County.
all
They may
right,
have done in Hardin County as well. So, property tax season.
Yeah.
Everybody here got their property taxes and it went up. Our uh, fiscal court has said that they lowered the property tax rate on the houses. But what they did is they went by and reevaluated all of the houses and reevaluated them so much higher that it negated the decrease in the percentage rate to where they're getting more funding and we're paying more.
And yeah, and I don't, what I do know that my house went from me buying it about, let's see, I bought it in 2022, and since I bought it, it's gone up at least 50,000 to 70,000, in value due to that blue oval SK um, coming in, and that, the projection being that, well, we're going to need a lot more houses for, a lot more employees, just south of here in Hardin County.
Yeah. Well, mine's the same way. I know I bought mine in 2019 and I bought it, I'll just say I bought it for 120,000 and it's now estimated around 200,000.
Oh, wow.
And it's
That's
three
real.
bedroom, one bath. House was built in 1963, older ranch style home, and it just and most of the jump just happened recently to
So has a
where
lot been bleed over from Nashville's huge increase since you're so close to Nashville? Like people like, oh, we can't afford, Nashville. Let's go up to Kentucky.
yeah, oh yeah, we have a lot of people who work in Nashville still, who used to live in Nashville, who are moving up here because it's only an hour away.
Yeah, yeah, 45 minutes to some parts of it, right?
Yeah,
Mm,
but I wanted to make sure with affordability that you knew about that since you're running for the
yeah,
fiscal court
thank you.
that they got around. They lowered our tax, but they increased property values to still get money out of us.
Right, which, aren't those great games?
Yep. And then, so let's talk about other affordability. So, um, it's I was just at Walmart earlier today. I had to go get my oil changed, and we decided to do a little bit of shopping while we were getting it done. And it's just the prices on everything. It's still gone up.
Yeah,
It's still gone. It's insane to me. Um, there, it's harder for people to make ends meet now.
absolutely. And, we just keep on acting like it, the last administration's fault, which, hey, you got to own it,
Yep.
and this administration doesn't want to own it. After they use that as a bludgeon, but it's gotten, you know, many, many, many times worse than it was, when January, come January. And that's what
Yes.
we really, have got to look at.
Yes. And I mean, we're seeing recalls, more recalls on some more meat products here recently, especially in Walmart, which that's going to drive up the demand for that meat, which means they're going to raise the prices again.
Was that beef, poultry, pork?
Yep.
Which one? Do you know?
Oh, it was both beef and poultry.
So, in my opinion, and this is there's probably some basis for this. Um, we have had in the past a very good system for inspecting our American produced beef, making sure that we didn't have diseases like E. coli and things like that getting into the food chain. Now, under 45, when the current president was, president number 45, he got rid of a lot of those food inspectors. You don't have enough food inspectors, you're not getting inspections done soon enough.
Oh,
Sorry, my little puppy decided he wanted to knock my camera over. And so once that happens, you have more chances of having things like E. coli, slip through the cracks, right?
yep.
Also, add to the fact that we just infused our beef market with so much of a glut of Argentinian beef, and Argentina doesn't have near the standards that we do. And so Here we are.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. And it's just a reminder. I mean, walking through Walmart, I heard so many people just eavesdropping because, as teachers, we're really good at eavesdropping. Uh, so many people going, man, this is high. I can't believe the price on this is still high. What is going on? Um, and I know that they want to talk about the package Thanksgiving meal from Walmart that they say is cheaper than last year's.
Ah, yeah, and you know
But
why that is, right?
oh yeah, it's not name brand items. There's less items in there, and you're getting less than what you did last year, so the price is going to be cheaper.
But there's also another thing. It's a uh, which is you can maybe call it insidious or not. They are actually taking a predetermined hit on the cost of turkey and items like that.
Mhm.
They're they know that they're selling them for far less than it takes for them to buy it in order to get us into the store and buy stuff since they know that once we're there we'll buy all those other things that will make up for their loss on the turkeys. So that's actually what's going on. It's not because of
That's
any
true.
policy that our president wants to claim. It's because the grocers associations realized they had to take a hit on that in order to get everybody in and actually buy all the other things that they, which will be at a higher price.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
you know,
And so everyone is seeing that, and then the most glaring affordability issue that I hear time and time again after groceries is always energy prices
absolutely.
or electricity bills specifically.
Yep.
And I'll tell you this, my opponent, who is the chairman of the Energy and Commerce Committee, who should be lowering these energy prices, is doing nothing to do so. Uh, I saw yesterday from one of my friends in Eastern Kentucky how their energy bill has went from around the 200 mark up to 4 500 already, and the winter months have not even hit full-fledged yet.
Yeah. And I was
And
talking to another Appalachian friend where they're building an AI silo. What do they call those? Where they go in and
data center.
data center. Yeah. So that data center, they did not tell everyone that their electric bill was going to go up in order to pay for the data center's electric. You know,
Gosh.
that's just sprung on
Yeah.
them without them being told. People are
Yep.
becoming aware that this is not the economic boom that they want to make it out to be. It sucks a whole lot of your natural resource of electricity
Mhm.
to
Yep.
make those AI data centers. But
Exactly.
talk about going to the store. That makes me worried that paraprofessionals like you and I aren't going to one day be able to afford them because that's what you and I we found out recently we are, right? Paraprofessionals,
Yeah.
we're not professionals anymore as teachers.
Yep. Yeah, exactly, and we'll get a little bit more into that here in a second, but yeah, you're exactly right. Uh, it is a worry for a lot of people that they won't be able to afford food, just basic necessities. I mean, to help with the SNAP cuts, to help with food insecurities all across Kentucky, we've been seeing food drive after food drive after food drive. And to think that we're supposed to be the richest nation in the world, why
Absolutely.
are we having to have food drives to make sure people don't go hungry?
Yes. Yes. We
And
were
I
so
actually
my church went
oh,
from giving food to feed 6 families a week to 6 a day, in the last
wow.
3 months. You know, 3 months.
And I'm man, and I mean, I went to Muhlenberg yesterday, which yesterday was my birthday, so I went out in the morning to
Happy
Muhlenberg.
birthday, by the way.
Thank you. I spent the beginning of my 32nd birthday out there helping them with their food donation drive. And they brought in a lot of food for rural Muhlenberg County. It was great. But I noticed at the same time, Feeding America in your neck of the woods, they were hosting something. I think it was yesterday or it might have been Friday, one of those 2 days. And by noon, they were out.
Man. Yeah.
It
Yep.
went quick. It
Yes.
and it's just heartbreaking to know that again, the richest country in the world, and because of these rising prices and because we're not paying people a living wages, that we have this massive food insecurity.
Yep.
So, uh, but you mentioned earlier about us not being considered professionals anymore by the current administration. So let's move into that topic a little bit.
Please.
So, uh, for those of you who do not know, the current Department of Education has listed degrees that are no longer classified as professional degrees. Uh, and remember, the person chairing this department is Linda McMahon, the famous wife of Vince McMahon from WWE. She said that these careers are not professional. Nursing, a physician's assistant, a physical therapist, audiologists, architects, accountants, educators, and social workers,
And nurse practitioners.
and nurse practitioners. Correct. Yes. And so there's a lot of things that these degrees have in common that a lot of people started noticing. What was something that you noticed with these degrees that they have in common?
Um, well, except for PAs, because I think that might be a um, male dominated um, position. Yeah, I would definitely notice that those are traditionally female dominated positions, or
Exactly.
professions, whether they want to call it paraprofessional or not.
Yes. And then we've also noticed that a lot of these positions are considered mandatory reporters.
Yes.
Did you make that? Did you notice
No, I
that?
didn't make that connection. That's
It,
very interesting.
and so uh, the fact that they're taking all of these groups and not classifying them as professional anymore is it just blows my mind. Uh, but they're doing it mainly because that way these people cannot get federal loans to go to college, and it's a way to keep them from getting there,
And
in my
yet we have a
opinion.
shortage of every single one of those that you mentioned,
Yes.
especially teachers, nurses, right?
Yeah.
And well, all medical professionals we have a shortage of. Um, but yeah, to say that they are not professional just blows me away when we know that this woman never had a job in her life. You know,
Yep.
she wanted to be a teacher and she had an education in what French, I believe, to be a French teacher, but she never did
Yep.
do it. And then now, because she became a millionaire thanks to her husband and his wrestling corporation, you know, but yeah, it just absolutely mind-boggling and grotesque. And I
Yes. Yes.
did not make that connection between mandatory reporters and the fact that, as a kid who had a stepdad that was extremely abusive, um, and I still, feel the effects of that, that boggles my mind and just kills me. So, yeah, yeah, but yeah, so I definitely consider that to be something atrocious. you know?
Yeah. I will say the one that surprised me the most was accountants. You would think that they would want to have people who know how to count their money correctly. You would
Well,
think that they
we
would
know they
want
don't want
to.
anybody to pay taxes,
That's
so I guess
true.
they
Yeah.
think that yeah, yeah,
That it,
and they'll
but it
probably Man, I didn't see that one coming either. Had it
Yeah,
become a female dominated profession by chance? Do you know?
that I don't know with accounting. I'm not sure. But I do know, I want to read to you Amy McGrath's statement on this, which, if you don't know, she's one of the candidates running for U.S. Senate here in Kentucky to replace Mitch McConnell. Here is what she wrote regarding this. Can someone explain how a theologian is considered more professional than a nurse practitioner? As part of the Big Beautiful Bill, the Department of Education just proposed a reclassification of a professional degree, and it means fewer students will qualify for the higher loan limits they need for grad school. Programs being excluded include many fields dominated by women, like healthcare, counseling, and social work. This isn't a coincidence. This is a way to quietly push women out of professional careers. Limiting who can pursue advanced degrees in critical professions will only deepen the workforce shortages we're already facing. And I think that is very well put.
Absolutely. You know, but like I said, the two things there that kill me is the fact that, yeah, we know that college is already far too expensive as it is. We don't have enough people going into these professions, regardless of what they say. I don't think we're paraprofessionals. And man, just that whole, well, accountants aren't mandatory reporters, but yeah, just about everyone else is.
Yeah. And so it's just, it's another way for them to dismantle our education system. It really is. And make it harder for women to get into those professional spaces.
Yep.
I mean, we've seen Linda McMahon, we've seen her gut the special education department.
Oh, it's
We've
gone.
seen,
Not gut. No, I
yeah,
mean, eliminate. There's
yep,
a difference between gutting and
yeah,
completely eliminating. It's now eliminated.
yep.
Yeah.
We also seen where they are taking parts of the Department of Education and sending them out to other cabinets and having them take over. They're doing everything they can to destroy the Department of Education without congressional approval.
That's their plan. Yeah.
Yep.
The stated plan in Project 2025. And she's willing to do it.
Yep. So, moving on to one last topic, and I'm kind of throwing you under the bus with this topic because it just popped into my head. We have also recently seen a very controversial statement, one of many that our president makes, um, on social media regarding Democratic lawmakers and our military. And you might know where we're going with this.
Well, I
Um,
actually do, because I actually did a podcast on it very recently.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, with you being in the military, I just want to know what your thoughts are about uh, Trump getting on to True Social and saying that we should arrest Democratic lawmakers and try them under sedition, which has penalty of death.
According to him.
And according to him, what is your opinion on that?
Well, did we try to put the people that actually engaged in sedition on January 6th to death?
Oh
No,
no,
we
not at
didn't.
all. No.
You know, but my opinion is this: number one, right now, and what they're alluding to, but not coming out and saying it. And I think those guys should have come out and said what it was that they were alluding to, right? So going to these small boats, they're not ships, they're small boats with outboard motors. And if you ever been in the Navy, or even if you just tooled around on some of our beautiful Kentucky lakes, an outboard motor is not going to get you more than a few hours worth of movement before you have to refuel. So you can't make it from Venezuela all the way to Florida without refueling 4 or 5 times, right? So if these actually did have any drugs on them, two things could be done to make sure that they do, and to make sure that you're not killing people without giving them the benefit of litigation. So you can either stop them and pull up to them when they pull into a place to refuel. Number one, they're not even definitely going. I know they're not going all the way to Florida in those small ships, but if just pretend like those small boats were, they would have to refuel quite a few places. But the easiest mission to do in special operations, and my favorite to do in special operations, is to take either one of our small ships like a cruiser or a guided missile destroyer, pull up alongside that small boat, tell it to stop, and if they don't stop, we would often shoot over them and not trying to hit them. Like, hey, you definitely got to stop. And you can either take, and we all would either take one of our small boats off of our large ship, zoom it over to that small craft, and board it with our guns and weapons drawn. And we go down, turn off the engine, go to the pilot house. Of course, these ships too small to even have a pilot house. I mean, these boats, they're not ships, too small to have a pilot house. But we'd go there and we'd search, right? If it turned out they had nothing, hey, sorry for bothering you. We've heard that there is illegal activity going on in this area. Have a good trip. Did this from the first Gulf War in 1990-91 all the way up. Was training people to do this when I retired in 2014. But also another thing that I've trained to do was with this, again, another special operations team. We could take helos from our ship, fly them over to another vessel, fast rope. So that's when they drop ropes, kind of like those gym ropes we used to have to climb. And we'd slide out of what we call it a hell hole in the helicopter. It's a hole in the bottom, slide on the ropes with our machine gun, automatic weapons and everything else attached to us in backpacks, slide down the ropes, and then go all over the vessel and do a search procedure. Now in the Persian Gulf, we'd find times when there'd be some of these boats would have nothing on them. Hey, go on your merry way. Or we'd find they had stolen Mercedes Benz and all kinds of other stolen material. Maybe they were even transporting oil from places that were not supposed to be selling it because they were embargoed. But we do this stuff day in, day out, all the time around the world. So why wouldn't we do it on the easiest vessels to board? So to me, that is absolutely criminal that we kill people without making sure that they're doing what we're accusing them of. This is the first time in the history that I've been, known in the Navy and Marine Corps team that we haven't done that. And the Navy and Marine Corps trained to do this all the time. SEALs know how to do it. MARSOC knows how to do it. Regular Navy knows how to do it. And regular Navy, we're talking people, when we talk about regular Navy, we talk about just regular sailors, regular ships. They still have teams trained to do boarding operations like that. The Coast Guard does it all the time. So that's, to me, what is this criminal unlawful order. There was an admiral that retired over this. He wasn't going to be a part of it anymore. That's how he felt about it. So, yeah, I think that I know that's what they're talking about. And if they're going to take us into another war, we've got, if you don't realize it, we've got 20% of our fleet down there right now, Navy and Marine Corps.
Wow.
That's a lot of folks. And that, he's itching to be a wartime president. He said that in the first time he was president, he wanted to be a wartime president because he said they got to do whatever they want, without being questioned.
Yeah.
That's, in my opinion, what he's looking for. Is that country as much of a threat as he's making them out to be? That's, the question. I don't believe it. I believe that they have a lot of oil we'd like to control. And I don't know if you watched the news, but, the gal who won the Nobel Peace Prize, and she's from Venezuela, she was on the news saying, hey, put me in charge, because she's the loyal opposition. put me in charge, and your businesses will have a good time down here. They'll make money. You know,
Yep.
so America, what are you willing to do? Are you willing to send your sons and daughters down to Venezuela, you know, in harm's way, possibly death's door, for more oil and for businesses to do good? You know,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And that's what Democratic lawmakers, like you said, were referring to that in a video to our military men and women.
Most importantly, they were all veterans of either the armed forces, or the CIA. So
Yep.
they've had experience. All those folks had experience in that last 20-year war that we just ended.
Yeah. And to have our sitting president say that they needed to be arrested and then tried for
Executed.
sedition and then executed is just, it's wild.
That's beyond the
Um,
pale. You know?
I mean, I don't condone political violence on any side. I didn't condone it with Charlie Kirk. I didn't condone it with Hortman and all of those state senators and their families that got hurt. I've never condoned it. And to see a sitting president doing just that is, it's terrifying.
Yeah, it's unimaginable. Yet at the
And
same
so,
time, he was palling around with Mondami the other day, as if they were,
yes,
had the same ideology. So you just,
which was
never
weird.
know what to,
And I will say Friday was, and this is a little bit off our script. Friday was a weird day to me because we saw there was this big boy act leading up to Mamdani coming to the Oval Office, and then they were clowning around at the Oval Office. And then on the same day, you see Marjorie Taylor Greene announce she's resigning from Congress.
yeah, yeah,
Um, which again is a little terrifying because a couple years ago, Marjorie Taylor Greene was what people said, well, we don't want people with her thinking in charge in our government. And to
right.
see that it's went too far for her to where she wants to leave.
Well, but let's just take back to say what you're talking about. We're talking about a woman who followed people around in Sandy Hook. The folks who had their
Yeah,
kids shot and killed in Sandy Hook. She followed them around and claimed that they were all actors. You know,
yeah,
that wanted to get rid of our Second Amendment rights. Hey, I'm a Second Amendment right. You can't see my hat. I support the Second Amendment rights.
yep,
But am I going to go do that to someone who lost their child to gun violence? Oh,
no,
heck no. That was, well, you can call it hopefully what it is. That type of action. So if there's someone that's that extreme thinks that
yep,
this guy's too extreme, finally, this is the girl who wore that hat that said what Trump was right about everything during what Biden's speech when
yep.
he got elected. Yeah, you know, and I just yesterday I went over this, um, you know, on one of my recent podcasts. I'm looking at those lists of people who are in Epstein Island, and I'm not sure if you were old enough to remember one of the names there that just stuck in my craw big time. That's Kenneth Starr. You know,
That name
you know,
sounds familiar.
Kenneth Starr is the special, specially appointed prosecutor or investigator for the, well, let's just say the Clintons. Well, they tried to say
Oh,
that there was something going on. Um,
oh,
sorry, the dogs. Something going on in Arkansas, and once he couldn't find that there was any wrongdoings uh, um, in Arkansas, then he took us from 1994 all the way to 1998 through Keck, costing us billions of dollars to investigate consensual sexual activity. Granted, it was egregious for a president to abuse his position, right? But from 1994 to 1998, he took us through that crap. Then he was the president of Baylor University. Do you remember what happened while he was at Baylor University? Why he had to step down after years of being the president there?
I don't.
It was revealed that he neglected to investigate sexual assaults, multiple sexual assaults. During that time in the 2000s, he also became the attorney for our child molester and went down to his island many times, visited him in New York many
Gotcha.
times, defended him, got him off, used his connections with George W. Bush to get the Department of Justice to give him a big break when they were prosecuting him that first time. And then he was still talking to him, up via email over the years up until the day he died. I mean, I guess because he died during surgery in 22, no one's bothering to point out this glaring inconsistency and this glaring irony, but worse than irony, hypocrisy,
Yep.
in that party. Well, they'll do all this crap and yet defend child pedophile.
Yep.
You know,
Exactly. Yeah.
we'll get all the smoke screens we want, but was it really about Clinton doing what they were claiming, or were they just pissed off at having Clinton having some policies that they didn't like, which meant taxing the wealthy at a higher rate? I mean, that's all it is. It's all about not not giving the rich enough of a break. Nothing more.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So I hate to cut it off there. I feel like we could actually speak for hours, but
Yeah. And I went off
we are.
topic. I'm sorry. But
Yeah, we. I did too. It's okay. Uh, but we're getting to the end of the podcast. So, Spencer, do you have any closing remarks that you'd like to share with anybody?
well, I mean, my closing remark is that hey, where you live and where I live, there's only a couple. You've mentioned that you have quite a few manufacturing businesses coming there, and we've got Blue Oval SK, but that's still not as large of an employer as healthcare and education is in
Yep.
every single town in Kentucky. There's quite a few places in Kentucky. The only way that you can make a professional salary is if you're a doctor, a lawyer, or a teacher. It's those three, and that's it. And the tiny communities, where my grandparents, my parents were from, towns of 3,000, that's the only professions in there. And to now say that teachers and nurse practitioners are not professionals, you are saying, giving a big middle finger, sorry, to those folks who actually are the backbone of the economy of those places. They're the only ones who can bear the tax burden to keep things rolling.
Yeah.
But hey, let's all love our neighbors as ourselves, and we are our brother's keeper and our sister's keepers. And so I say, God bless you, corazon. Have a great one.
Yeah. So, I want to thank everybody for tuning into this episode of Compton's Corner. Again, I'm William Compton, and thank you all for spending your time with us. Of course, these conversations we have matter because the future of not just Kentucky's second congressional district, but the entire nation is shaped by people like you, people who care, who listen, and who want something better for our communities. And I want to thank Spencer Keck a big thanks for helping us with these issues and always keeping the conversation honest and grounded every time that we have this podcast. And
Thank
so,
you.
uh, before we go, Spencer, where can everyone find information about your magistrate campaign?
Yeah, so that'd be at E. Spencer Keck on for magistrate on Facebook, and I've also got the Hillbilly Think Tank on YouTube. So you're either watching me here or you can find me on YouTube.
Awesome.
But the Facebook place is the big place right now.
Awesome. So, with my campaign for the second congressional district, my website is williamcompton.com, or you can find me on all social media at Compton, the number 4KY 2024. Uh, and that's where you can find information. I'm on everything: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, everything. So you can follow the campaign and stay up to date with what's going on with that. So I want to also say if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to uh, subscribe to the campaign YouTube, leave a review, leave a comment, share Compton's Corner with your family and friends. The more voices we bring into this conversation, the stronger our movement becomes because it's going to take everybody on all levels to make a change for the better for Kentucky and for our nation.
Amen.
So so until next time, everybody take care, stay engaged, have a wonderful Thanksgiving with your family and friends, and make sure to keep fighting for not just a better Kentucky, but a better America that works for everybody. Thank you all so
Absolutely.
much for listening, and y'all have a great day.